All right, man, peace. Now, in the mid-1970s, first Spencer Haywood and then Moses Malone pretty much changed the landscape of professional basketball when they decided that they were going to go straight from high school into the professionals. And you did not have another NBA player that was allowed to come straight from high school again until the mid-90s, when Kevin Garnett decided in 1995 that he was going to declare for the NBA draft straight out of high school. And that pretty much opened up the floodgates. The next season, Kobe Bryant came straight out of high school to the NBA. And then in 1997, Tracy McGrady did so. Now, Tracy McGrady came into the league very much ballyhooed, but he started off very slow. I remember his rookie season. There was a game when the Toronto Raptors played against the Chicago Bulls, and he ended up pretty much on Scottie Pippen's back. Scottie caught him out of the air and carried him around, and you could tell that Tracy was very embarrassed. He had a very sheepish look on his face, and his rookie year was not a good one. I believe that his coach was Butch Carter, but one of you brothers can correct me on that, who also happens to be Chris Carter's brother. Well, after the Toronto Raptors drafted Vince Carter, no relation to Butch Carter, that is what really started Tracy McGrady's rise as a player, because he realized that Vince Carter was his cousin. They bonded, and all of a sudden, Tracy McGrady started to bloom. Of course, he had a breakout season in the 99-2000 season, I believe it was, which led to his free agency, where he signed with the Orlando Magic and became a great offensive player for a few seasons until his knees just broke down on him. Well, he recently was inducted into the NBA Hall of Fame. I did not think that he was worthy of being a first ballot Hall of Famer, but it is what it is. And now he works for ESPN and is a very successful NBA analyst. And that brings me to my point. Tracy McGrady has decided that he's going to chime in on the LeBron James versus Michael Jordan debate, and he has stated that if he were choosing a hypothetical team, he would pick LeBron James first, because he believes that LeBron would be more likely to pass him the basketball. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
If you want to start a team, I'm going to go with LeBron because of him being able to take lesser talent and elevate those guys because of his pass-first mentality, being able to elevate his team in terms of how their style of play. Mike is going out there trying to get 30 and 40 points. He's not looking to make his team better.
I don't understand how Michael Jordan could not be out looking to make his team better when he's had seasons where he won 67 games, 69 games, 72 games, 62 games. So how could you be out there not making your teammates better and you're having win totals of that magnitude? I believe that LeBron James' highest win total was in 2013 with the Heat when he won 66 games. But, you know, it is what it is. A lot of times a narrative starts its way around the block, and before it turns the corner, it has become the quote-unquote truth, unfortunately. Tracy McGrady has fallen for it, but I believe once again that the reason why he has picked LeBron James over Michael Jordan is because he believes that on a hypothetical team, it is much more likely that LeBron would pass him the ball than Michael Jordan.
You just heard it from T-Mac, starting a team with LeBron before MJ. I wanted to hear Paul's response, but didn't get a chance to.
You wanted to hear Paul Pierce's response, but you didn't get a chance to. Well, why don't you get in your spaceship and fly back in time, because you look like a damn space cadet.
Stephen A., does Tracy have a point?
No, he does not.
Hold on, Stephen A. Hold on, Stephen A.
No, you hold on, Tracy McGrady.
Listen, I'm not saying who's better. Take it from me, a guy that was a scorer first. I was a scorer.
Hold up.
Tracy McGrady looked like one of those pastors in one of these black churches that's having sex with all the women. He got that look now. The salt and pepper mustache and the little goatee with the silly curly afro and them thick rim glasses. And of course, he got the two earrings to show that he's a hip pastor. In there breaking down Jay-Z lyrics and the Book of John. Oh boy. So turn now to Psalms 23. Read that there, girl. My rod and my staff will comfort you.
Hold on. Don't hide from your comments now, my brother. Come on now. You know how we do. And your bodyguard, that's my man too. He ain't gonna hurt me now. He'll hurt anybody else that come at you. But he loves me, so there we go. So let's calm down. I have to get on you about something
Come
here.
on.
I know that you wasn't saying he's better, but let me ask you a question, Tracy. You said you were a scorer, right?
Absolutely.
You said you were a scorer. We all know you were a scoring machine in your prime. You wasn't trying to help your team?
I was trying to help my team, absolutely.
You're damn right you are. You're damn right you are. So.
And well, you're not trying to make your teammates better. I think that the LeBron James narrative that he goes out there to make sure that his teammates shine, it's just something that's totally unfounded. You can't find one player that he played with that actually had better numbers playing with him than not playing with him. Now, many people will say, well, what about Kyrie? You have to understand that when LeBron James came back to the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2014, Kyrie Irving was 21 years old. People are so fond of trying to denigrate and belittle the players that LeBron plays with. They'll say things like, well, what has Kyrie accomplished compared to what LeBron James accomplished? Well, you'd have to compare what they both accomplished by the same age or by the same number of games played. And at 21 years old, LeBron James had not done shit yet. I think that he had made the playoffs once. And in 2007 is when he went to the finals. Of course, that was a magic carpet run, but he was way ahead of schedule. That's why the expectations grew so high after that. And in 2008, 2009, when he went out in the second round, 2010 went out in the second round again, that's when he started to be looked at as a choker. Because he had boosted up the expectations for himself so high in 2007 when he got to the finals in a year really when he should not have gotten there. And I would bet that in LeBron James's most private moments, when he's asked by many of the people in his trusted inner sanctum if he could have gone back, would he have liked to have gone to the finals in 2007, I bet you he would have said no. Because all he got for that run to the finals in 2007 was a big fat loss, and he got swept. And that counts on his finals record.
So
I came in as a pass first guy, not a scorer.
Stop it. You stop that nonsense.
That's true. When Tracy McGrady first was coming to prominence on the Toronto Raptors, he was viewed as more of a glue guy. He was viewed as the guy who was going to be Scottie Pippen to Vince Carter's Michael Jordan. And I don't think that he wanted to deal with that. That's why he went to Orlando. He wanted his own team. It was a lot like, I won't say a lot like, it was very similar to the LeBron James, Kyrie Irving situation. And I mentioned this in previous videos. There were a lot of young teams in the 1990s that could have became great teams had the players stayed together. But the 1990s was a me era. It was all about me. It was all about the bling, the platinum, and all that other stuff. Whether it was Allen Iverson and Jerry Stackhouse, or Kevin Garnett and Stephon Marbury, or Ray Allen and Glenn Big Dog Robinson, Jason Kidd, Jimmy Jackson, and Jamal Mashburn with the Dallas Mavericks. There were a lot of young teams back then that could have been something had the players not been so about themselves and about their stats. And I'm sure that T-Mac sits back in his rocking chair and says to himself, wow, what if I would have stayed with Vince? Or what if Grant Hill had not gotten hurt and Doc Rivers was not stupid enough to tell Tim Duncan that he would not have been allowed to bring family members on the team plane? What would my career have been like?
Please. I mean, don't you lie to the American people like that. What's the matter with you? Hey, everybody need to step up. No, I'm talking about when you were the man. I'm not talking about when you were there with VC. I'm talking about when you were the man. Excuse me.
Tracy, I can disprove.
I like Tracy because he does not even try to yell with Stephen A. He just waits for a breath so that he can throw a little phrase in there.
Hold on, Max. Hold on, Max. Because let's be clear about something, Tracy McGrady. See, I know you. You can sit there and try that nonsense. So you know I know better than that. What I'm saying to you is this: did you not have to do what you had to do because of the lack of parts around you?
Right.
Wasn't that true?
Yes.
So you can't hold that against MJ. You can't. MJ, look, stop it.
I'm not holding it against MJ.
I truly don't think that he's holding that against Michael Jordan. I think he's just looking at it from a selfish perspective. He's saying, who would I like to play with more? I don't think that T-Mac means it as any type of insult for him to say that he would take LeBron James over Michael Jordan. He's looking at it from a very selfish perspective. I think that he's looking at it from the hypothetical of, who would I have liked to have played with more? Because Kobe Bryant himself has stated that he would have preferred to have played with a LeBron James instead of a Michael Jordan, because when T-Mac and Kobe Bryant look at Michael Jordan, they look at their basketball dad. that's the guy that they modeled their game after. So, of course, they don't want to play with LeBron James. And in LeBron James, they see a player who, at least in their mind, they believe they could have played with and they could have gotten him to give them the ball in their mind because they believe the hype. Now, in reality, playing with him would have been totally different for them because they would have seen that they would have had to have just been a cog in his wheel because that is what LeBron is about. Once again, it's complete falsehood that LeBron James plays with great scorers and he helps them score. All this bullshit. That's nonsense. Dwayne Wade, in their first year together, averaged about 25 a game, and he quickly realized what the issue was. And the next year, his scoring average had to drop about 3 points to make LeBron more comfortable. And his scoring average dropped just about every year after that, playing with LeBron, because LeBron needs to rock, he needs to focus. So, T-Mac and Kobe are sadly mistaken if they believe that LeBron would have just been out there averaging 20 assists a game and 18 of them would have been to T-Mac or Kobe Bryant. But it is what it is.
Tracy,
Tracy, if I may, let me disprove your ridiculous notion right away. First of all, I understand why on the surface someone would say LeBron is easier to build a team around. But let me remind you that Michael Jordan, because Michael Jordan's a scorer, yeah, you're right. But Michael Jordan, the first time he played with a single other all-star, Scottie Pippen, who, by the way, greatly benefited by scrimmaging against Michael Jordan, right? That's part of what made Pippen Pippen. But the first time Pippen played as an all-star, he made an all-star team, was also the first time Jordan played with a single other all-star. They lost in Game 7 to the Pistons because Pippen begged out with a migraine, because Pippen couldn't play. The first time...
Well, Pippen did play, but he couldn't go the whole way because he couldn't answer the bell. Those are his words.
Jordan played with one other all-star who could play in Game 7. They won the Game 7. They swept the Pistons.
Well, Max Kellerman, don't tell that to the LeBron James super fans or to the people who are trying to somehow create this shortcut for other players to surpass Jordan. Because according to them, Michael Jordan played with about 8 other Hall of Famers. Supposedly Steve Kerr was as good as Isaiah Thomas, and Bill Wennington was as good as Bill Russell, and Tony Kukoc was right there with John Havlicek, if you let a lot of these idiots tell it.
Michael Jordan, other than that first year when Pippen didn't play, when he played a full season and played with at least one other all-star, didn't win the championship in under 7 games. He didn't need as much as everyone says. LeBron needs more.
Max, why you keep saying he played with one other All-Star? How many All-Stars did LeBron play with in 2007 when he took Cleveland Cavaliers to the finals?
That's a good response, Tracy McGrady, but LeBron didn't win shit when he took them to the finals. Unfortunately, he got swept. Now, the era that LeBron James played in, it had a little hiccup that season because in 2007, the Detroit Pistons no longer had their 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, Ben Wallace, which made it much easier for LeBron James to go to the basket. Kudos to him for winning the Eastern Conference that year and getting to the finals. But he didn't finish anything. Now, to Max Kellerman's point, when Michael Jordan actually played with one all-star caliber player, they got to the conference finals and they lost to the Detroit Pistons, who were still in their prime. The next year, they won a championship. Now, when LeBron finally himself got an all-star player, to your point, he got to the finals in 2011, played the Dallas Mavericks, and we all know what happened. He completely flamed out.
He took him to the finals and lost. Since then, he's played with multiple All-Stars every year.
With lesser talent, Max. Right? With lesser talent. Pippen is top.
When he was up with Wade, Wade was top
all
5.
Time. Zydrunas Ilgauskas is nowhere near the caliber player Pippen was.
Tear him up, T-Mac. Let him know. That's not really the argument, though, T-Mac. We're talking about the era where they both became winners. LeBron did not fully become a winner until he went to Miami.
But hold up. We're not talking about the first go-round with the Cavs. We're talking about after he left the Cavs and went to Miami. Dwayne Wade was a top 5 player when they linked up, at least perceived that way. Chris Bosh was a perennial all-star. He went to Cleveland, they had Kyrie Irving, and then got Kevin Love. The first time Jordan linked up with one all-star, he never looked back.
Who became
I'm
top
just saying,
50
this idea
of all
Jordan needed more
time.
around him is not right.
Well, Dwayne Wade, when he finally retires, will most likely be considered a top 50 all-time player, Tracy McGrady. Now, that's a good debate. Who was a better player, Dwayne Wade or Scottie Pippen? That's a great debate. I believe that Dwayne Wade will most likely be ranked higher on the all-time player list than Scottie, but Scottie probably brought more to the table than Dwayne Wade brought.
He came top 50
Tracy.
of all time, one of the best perimeter defensive players in history.
Tracy, may I ask you a question, Tracy McGrady? Because, I mean, you're qualified to answer this question. Has LeBron elevated the play of other parts around him, or did they have to sacrifice their game? The Kevin Loves, the Chris Bosches of the world and others. Did they have to sacrifice their game because LeBron was there with them?
I'm so happy that Stephen A. Smith is finally starting to open his eyes and see the truth. I've been saying this for so long, and he's finally starting to talk about it, most likely because LeBron's team has let him know that they don't like him. So he says, you know what, I'm taking the kid gloves off on this nigga.
I think they sacrificed, but listen, if you team up with other stars, somebody got to sacrifice. D. Wade sacrificed for LeBron. Kevin Love,
but
yes,
what did LeBron sacrifice? LeBron sacrificed.
See
where I'm getting at? He never. No, he didn't.
LeBron sacrificed.
No, he didn't.
Come on.
No, actually, it's the opposite, T-Mac. Actually, he had to pretty much be made the sole beneficiary when those teams were comprised, when they were made up, when they came together. Because that's just part of his mental makeup. That's part of his psychological makeup. He has to be the one on top. Everyone must be feeding their energy into the LeBron machine. If not, he's going to have a malfunction.
Oh,
no,
yes,
he didn't. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. I can prove it. I can prove it.
Let me
because I'm not talking. Because I'm not talking about what. Listen. I'm not talking about.
Stephen A. Who was taking over those games? Was D. Wade taking over those games? Who they was giving the ball
Which
to?
games? Which games? In Miami?
Yes. Who was closing out the games?
They would give it to LeBron and they would give it to LeBron and LeBron would play the role of facilitator and D Wade would close.
What is LeBron doing right now,
Listen, let me get my point out. The point is, LeBron James always preferred being that way. Sacrifice is when you don't want to do something, but you're willing to do it for the better whole. LeBron has always been LeBron. Other people had to take different roles that they may have not wanted to take because of him. That is fact. That is fact. Tell me.
That's fair, Stephen A. Smith, and one can also make the case that back in the early 2010s, one of the main reasons why he decided to go to Miami and team up with D. Wade is because he knew that D. Wade had the closing DNA, and he wasn't sure if he had it. As I've stated in other videos, the narrative about LeBron James not being clutch has always been overrated. As a matter of fact, he was a very clutch player from the time that he first came into the NBA up until about 2010. And that's around the time that he let Skip Bayless get into his head. And after he let Skip get into his head, he was not right for about 2 years. Really up until Game 6 in Boston, which to this day, in my view, is the best game I've ever seen him play. One of the top 5 games I've ever seen anybody play. He literally had an out-of-body experience, in my view. The face that he had, his countenance was totally detached in that game. He looked like an assassin.
I mean, I'm lying.
It's also,
no, you're right.
It's also easier, as it like the history shows. It's easier to build an unbeatable team around Michael Jordan than LeBron James.
I agree. It's very obvious.
It was. As soon as Jordan had something to work with, he never didn't win the finals. He always won if you gave him something. As soon as you gave it to him, it was a wrap for the rest of the league. That goes for Malone and Stockton. That goes for Shaq and Penny. That goes for Olajuwon and all his guys. As long as Jordan had something, no one got daylight. It didn't take as much to build like this. I know why on paper it looks like it's LeBron, but the reality is it's actually easier to build a winner around Jordan.
As a matter of fact, now that I think of it, other than Steph Curry, I don't think that there is a player that has had multiple 67-plus win seasons other than Michael Jordan and Steph Curry. I'd have to think about that. Well, Wilt Chamberlain also had the 69-win Laker team in 72, and he had the 68-win Philadelphia team in the late 60s. I believe it was 66 or 67. But Jordan and Curry have both had 3 teams that have won 67 or more games.
Let me tell you. Okay, no, I got you on that. Yes, when he got his guys, MJ won, no doubt about it. But why did KD go and join a 73 team? Because
LeBron.
Thank you. Because of LeBron James. He knew he could not beat LeBron James if he was to face him in the finals. These guys had to team up super teams to beat LeBron James. They had to join forces. MJ had that.
That was a different era, Tracy McGrady. People had a different mindset. It wasn't about teaming up back in the 90s. It was about how you could build the best team. You go out there and compete. LeBron James fell on the sword that he himself created. He was the blacksmith for the sword that was thrust through his own heart. When he decided that he was going to change the NBA paradigm for success by going to Miami, and I don't fault him for that at all. I love the fact that he brought mobility into the NBA, into the NBA consciousness of the players. But he's the one who set that standard, who created that trend. And Kevin Durant one-upped him. And the fact of the matter is that the Golden State Warriors were wooing Kevin Durant during the 2016-17 regular season, or during the 2015-2016 regular season, well before they faced Cleveland in the finals. So, it is what it is.
Others would have done it during the Jordan era if they could.
Absolutely. If their minds were configured that way back then, they would have done the same things. And as a matter of fact, many people may not remember this, but in the 1996 offseason, Jordan flirted with signing with the New York Knicks. Reggie Miller flirted signing with the New York Knicks. That's why the Knicks finally settled for Allen Houston. But Jordan seriously flirted with going to the Knicks. A lot of people don't know that. As did Reggie Miller.
They couldn't at the time. The game evolved from a business perspective that gave you the freedom to do those things. You didn't have that during the Jordan era. You know that.
Yeah, by the way, the Houston Rockets in Jordan's absence went back-to-back. I mean, he was there for the second one, but he didn't have his legs yet. He didn't play the whole season. As soon as Jordan got back, they had Drexler and the Dream and Barkley and role players. What happened the next year when Jordan came back?
Jordan came back. Rodman, he had Pippen, he had Kukoc, all Hall of Famers.
All great players who were championships have other great players on the team. It didn't take extra for Jordan to win.
Ultimately, here's the final point,
Tony Kukoc was not a Hall of Fame level player. He was a very good sixth man who oftentimes could make clutch shots. Now, he may get into the NBA Hall of Fame because the NBA pretty much lets anyone into the Hall of Fame, especially if you had a rather successful career overseas before you came into the NBA. But no, Tony Kukoc was not a Hall of Fame level player. As a matter of fact, when he left the Bulls, I believe he played in Philadelphia for a while. He played in Milwaukee for a while. He floated around the league. Michael Jordan made a lot of his former teammates so much money because they were allowed to stay in the NBA for about 5 or 6 years after that Bulls dynasty was over, just because of what they were able to accomplish with him. I mean, Ron Harper was damn near 40 years old playing with the Lakers in like 2001. Horace Grant was able to win a championship in 01 with the Lakers. All still based off of what they contributed on those Bulls teams, either in the first or second three-peat.
I made it already. Sacrifices when you do something you don't normally do and you don't want to do for the betterment of the team. People around LeBron James have done that. LeBron James has never been called upon to do that. That's the difference.
Well, he may have been called upon to do it, but mentally he's not capable of doing it, Stephen A. Smith. LeBron is not capable of going to a team and saying to himself, okay, I'm just going to average 23, 6, and 6 because I feel like I need to marginalize myself for the betterment of the team and so that everyone else can wax fat. That's just not how his brain works.
Even Jordan had to sacrifice. LeBron did not. Not like that. They had to sacrifice because of LeBron.
I want to start a team with LeBron James. I would want to play with LeBron James. I stand firm on that, and I'm not wavering.
You can see.
Tell him, Tracy, you're not backing down.
Tracy,
I can't wait till I see you. I can't wait till I see you. We're going to have dinner over that one.
Unfortunately, we have to let you
go.
That's
right. You're treating.
We appreciate you. Come back again anytime. Absolutely. A lot of fun.
Oh, man. That was funny. I like the fact that Tracy McGrady stood his ground. Good for him. even though he was dead wrong. But from his perspective, he's right, because he'd rather truly play with LeBron James rather than play with Michael Jordan. That's really what he meant. It is what it is. Peace.